Hello, welcome to Unlocking Buddhism. We begin this journey together by settling into the present moment, allowing our awareness to rest like a leaf descending upon calm water. In this quiet, we invite a soft attention to our inner landscape, to the subtle currents and patterns that shape our everyday experience. It is here, in this shared condition, that we meet a profound and often puzzling reality. The mind, in its ceaseless activity, can feel like an intricate web, a delicate yet pervasive snare of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. This web is not external, but an internal architecture, woven moment by moment through our interpretations, desires, fears, and the stream of inner dialogue. We may recognize this sensation as a familiar companion, the sense of being caught, entangled, or bound by our own thinking. The mind, meant to navigate the world, can paradoxically become the source of feeling lost within it. We seek clarity, often earnestly, yet find ourselves adrift in an ocean of information, theories, and perspectives, each promising answers but often leading to more complication rather than true resolution. Consider the seeker, who, confronted with confusion or suffering, instinctively reaches for more knowledge. We read, listen, analyze, believing that more facts or a refined conceptual framework will dissolve the knots of experience. This impulse is natural and well-intended, rooted in the belief that understanding comes from adding to what we know. Yet seeking liberation through increased thought can create a subtler entanglement. Each new piece of information may offer insight, but also introduces new questions, doubts, and complexities, extending the very web we wish to escape. The mind's attempt to grasp and categorize can build elaborate structures that hide simplicity and direct understanding. This is not to dismiss learning or inquiry. Genuine understanding often comes from thorough, honest examination. But there is a quality to wisdom that truly liberates, a wisdom that transcends mere intellectual accumulation. It does not add to the mental landscape, but clarifies and simplifies it, revealing an openness and ease beneath the incessant chatter. The knowledge we pursue, while valuable, can function as another layer, another veil, rather than a clear window to experience. True wisdom often involves letting go, seeing through layers rather than building more of them. This reflection, this gentle acknowledgement of our shared pattern, the tendency to seek freedom from thought through more thought, only to find deeper entanglement, serves as our quiet departure. It sets the stage not for accumulating facts, but for a different exploration. We are invited to turn our attention, with kindness and curiosity, toward the nature of this entanglement itself. What truly binds us? What might it mean to discover a path of liberation that does not rely on ceaseless analysis? This journey invites us to explore the quiet spaces within, to observe our inner dynamics with gentle, discerning awareness. It is a contemplative path, seeking the roots of experience, not merely its surface. We embark on an inquiry into the nature of mind, not to fill it with more content, but to understand its capacities and potential for freedom. The answers may not lie in external doctrines or complex systems, but in a subtle shift of our internal gaze, a reorientation toward the silent wisdom within. This exploration promises not a burden of new information, but a lightness, a clarity arising from discerning what is essential from what is conceptual. We are invited to move beyond the surface, beyond the web of thoughts, to discover the deeper, more profound stillness that awaits. Let us continue with open heart and receptive mind into the gentle unfolding of this understanding. Indeed, this subtle separation becomes a widening gap between the vast landscape of acquired information and the direct, lived experience of reality. The mind, full of concepts, theories, and histories, forms a conceptual filter, a veil through which the world appears. While intellect categorizes and labels, the heart can remain unengaged, untouched by the simplicity beneath phenomena. Pursuit of wisdom, when purely intellectual, yields a paradox. The more one gathers, the heavier the burden, and the farther from immediate awareness one drifts. This does not devalue study or sacred texts. They can point toward truth. Yet when knowing becomes an end, a different entanglement arises. The mind habituates to grasping and accumulating, identifying with its stores. One might take satisfaction in mastering systems, articulating insights, or winning debates. Beneath this, there can stir a quiet disquiet. Is accumulation liberating or subtly forging new chains? The wise monk observes that this disconnection prevents embodiment of studied truths. Words remain on the page, concepts in the intellect, while transformation of being stays elusive. Accustomed to analysis and comparison, the mind struggles to simply be with what is without immediately categorizing. This constant mental activity, subtle though it is, obstructs direct apprehension of reality, like ripples obscuring a pond's reflection. Consider true wisdom. Is it mere facts, or an intuitive insight that penetrates existence? True wisdom is not knowing more, but knowing differently. It is clarity arising when obscuring layers of thought fall away, seeing the nature of suffering, its origin, cessation, and the path beyond it. This seeing transforms rather than informs. It is born of stillness and direct observation, not fabrication. Thus, the subtle disconnection is distance from this seeing. One may speak eloquently of emptiness, impermanence, or interconnection, yet cling to identity, feel isolated, or resist change. Knowledge remains theoretical, a beautiful but inert edifice, not a living experience that permeates being. External pursuit overlooks the inner landscape, where real transformation occurs. It is like studying the chemical composition of water rather than taking a drink. Relying on external knowledge can become spiritual bypass, intellectual understanding mistaken for realization. We may grasp non-self in theory, but in challenge the identification with I persists. This gap between assent and embodiment is where disconnection dwells, the map mistaken for the territory, the finger for the moon. Relentless acquisition also feeds the ego, pride in knowing, a subtle sense of superiority. Attachment to intellectual prowess blocks the humility and openness essential to growth. Wisdom born of insight dissolves selfhood, cultivating interconnected compassion. It humbles rather than elevates. We are invited to shift from quantitative accumulation to qualitative deepening. Study is not dismissed, but placed as catalyst for contemplation, guide for meditation, and inspiration for conduct. The path purifies the lens through which we perceive, discerning what serves liberation from what adds mental noise. This turning inward asks us to observe our engagement with knowledge. Do we seek to possess it, or allow it to illuminate direct experience? Teachings provide a framework, but ultimate understanding arises within, from the quiet crucible of awareness, an uncovering of wisdom that appears once conceptual obscurations are set aside. Such reorientation needs humility. To acknowledge answers may not be out there but within. It invites pause, breath, and settling so the clear light of insight can arise. The art is letting go, not of knowledge, but of attachment to it, and the illusion that accumulation alone brings peace. The path is not filling the mind, but freeing it. The deepest truths are often simplest, found in the unadorned experience of this moment. Observing with a calm, receptive mind dissolves the subtle disconnection, drawing us toward wisdom that is lived, not merely known, integrating us more deeply into the world's compassionate flow. Indeed, such a traveler, absorbed in a finely drawn map, might trace routes, name distant villages, and memorize landmarks while never leaving the chair. The journey becomes indefinite postponement. Spiritual study can become the same, a journey of the mind, a meticulous exploration of concepts that, while captivating, keeps us separate from direct reality. We may be skilled cartographers of doctrine, able to articulate subtle philosophies, yet the terrain remains unvisited, its contours unfelt beneath our feet. Intellectual richness can, paradoxically, become a polished barrier, a clear window through which we observe a world we do not inhabit. Consider compassion. Intellectually, we can dissect it, note its place on the path, and analyze its psychology. We can read about the suffering of beings and reflect on interconnectedness. Yet if understanding stays in thought, compassion becomes an abstract ideal, not a living force in the heart. The map of compassion, however detailed, cannot transmit the warmth of touch, the ache of empathy, or the peace born of genuine care. To embody compassion is to feel another's suffering, to respond with an open heart, rather than a discerning mind. It requires leaving observation for engagement, sometimes uncomfortable, always immediate. Without embodied practice, Compassion is a curricular item rather than the wellspring of action. We may speak fluently about empathy while remaining deaf to its silent plea, even within ourselves. Intellectual grasp can illuminate the path for others, yet leave our own hearts untouched, perhaps hardened against the rawness compassion would soothe. So too with impermanence, a Buddhist cornerstone. We can see that conditioned phenomena arise and cease, trace causation, and appreciate the philosophical elegance of a transient self. But knowing impermanence differs from living it in every fiber. A map can show eroding mountains and fading seasons, but it does not prepare us for sudden loss, the shifting sands of identity, or the flux of inner life. When change touches us, aging bodies, dissolving relationships, lost possessions, intellectual understanding often fails to ease attachment's sting. The gap between knowledge and wisdom becomes painfully clear. The map tells us all passes, but does not teach letting go, embracing life and death, or finding freedom in flow. True understanding is lived, feeling subtle shifts in each breath, witnessing the arising and passing of thoughts, recognizing instability in all formations. Such embodied awareness loosens our grip on the fleeting and fosters peace and resilience amid life's currents. This distance between knowledge and realization often shows as yearning or dissatisfaction. The erudite seeker may feel a hollow, as if something essential is missing despite vast insight. Well-worn map paths offer comfort and direction, but not the cool stream, the sun on skin, or the effort of a steep ascent. The mind, habituated to dissecting and categorizing, struggles to simply be with the raw, unmediated present. It craves another concept, another teaching, perpetuating the mental activity it seeks to transcend, forever near a profound insight, yet not stepping into it. Teachings are invaluable guides and inspirations, but pointers, not destinations. Fingers pointing at the moon, not the moon itself. To bridge the gap, we are invited to shift from intellectual comprehension to direct, engaged experience. Turn inward, not to analyze further, but to observe. Step from the map onto the path. Let each step teach, each breath become realization. This cultivates a wisdom that arises not from accumulation, but from discernment, seeing things as they are without conceptual overlay. It integrates mind and heart, aligning understanding with action, theory with lived experience. We listen to life's silent teachings, the whisper of impermanence in a fading flower, the quiet call of compassion in another's eyes. The true journey unfolds not in pages, but in the spaciousness of awareness. Compassion and impermanence then cease to be abstract principles and become the fabric of being, guiding our steps with gentleness and clarity. Therefore, our journey now turns inward, beyond concepts toward the direct, unmediated experience of awareness. This is not a quest for new information, but a courageous willingness to observe the fabric of the inner world. We are invited to profound introspection, a quiet turning of the gaze to the source of perception, emotion, and thought. A subtle shift occurs, from looking outward at what the mind presents to looking at the mind itself, how it functions, creates, binds, or frees us. This is the path of genuine wisdom, not built on accumulated knowledge, but uncovered through intimate acquaintance with consciousness. This introspection is an active, non-judgmental witnessing of the ceaseless stream of mental activity. It is like sitting by a river and watching water flow. We do not try to stop the current or jump in and be swept away. We witness its movement, its murmurs, and occasional rush. Likewise, we learn to observe thoughts, plans, memories, worries, fleeting desires, each arising, lingering, then passing, making space for the next. Gentle observation reveals a fundamental truth. Thoughts are not solid, permanent entities, but dynamic, ever-changing phenomena. They are not us, but something that happens within us. This subtle distinction begins to loosen entanglement with mental constructs. As we continue, we come to know the mind's habits, how it grasps at pleasant experiences, pushes away unpleasant ones, and gets lost in narratives of past and future. We see how it labels, judges, and projects onto the immediate present. This is not intellectual but experiential insight, born of direct witnessing. The mind, trying to make sense of the world, often constructs an inner reality that can seem more real than the world itself. Like a mirror reflecting images, It can mistake reflections for unchanging things, forgetting they depend on conditions. We recognize the mind as a marvelous capacity for perception and conception, yet one that can mislead by presenting constructs as ultimate truths. This deeper seeing reveals thoughts as ephemeral and illusory, fleeting and impermanent, arising and passing like clouds. No thought, however persuasive, has a permanent dwelling within us. Illusory because a thought about an object is not the object. A thought about self is not an inherent, unchanging self. Ideas, beliefs, opinions are useful tools for life but not the ultimate reality. They are like dreams, vivid while they last, fading on waking and exposing their constructed nature. To see this as a living experience is to begin dismantling the mental prisons we unwittingly build. Consider fear. It arises as a thought, a vivid image or narrative of loss. If we mistake it for inherent reality, we may be overwhelmed, letting it dictate our actions. Observed as a thought, however, we create space between ourselves and the sensation. We notice it arising, feel its intensity, and with gentle attention witness its passing. Fear still arises. That is the mind's nature. But its power to bind us diminishes. We are no longer defined by it. Thoughts can feel powerful, yet lack independent existence. They are ripples on the surface of a deep ocean, not the ocean itself. This insight cultivates profound inner freedom. When we stop clinging to thoughts as truths, or identifying with every event, a vast spaciousness opens. The mind, once turbulent, begins to settle, revealing natural calm and clarity. True contentment does not depend on forcing thoughts to be pleasant, but on understanding their impermanence and lack of self. This frees us from exhausting efforts of control or suppression. Instead, we meet each thought and emotion with open, accepting awareness, allowing them to be without judgment or entanglement. This path is not escape, but deeper engagement with the world, from a place of inner stillness and clarity. When the inner sky is less clouded by supposed solidity of thought, perceptions of the outer world become clearer and more direct. We relate to others with greater compassion, seeing their struggles with entanglement, and respond to life's challenges with greater wisdom, less swayed by reactivity. The journey continues, a gentle turning of attention again and again, noticing, allowing, releasing, until recognition of thought's impermanence becomes a lived, liberating truth, freeing the heart to rest in its natural peace. Such identification, an unquestioning embrace of intellectual constructs, cultivates a subtle delusion, narrowing perception. We begin to live in a world shaped more by our theories than by direct, unadorned experience. This intellectualized existence, comfortable in its familiarity, becomes a gilded cage that obscures the ever-changing present. The mind, intent on categorizing, believes naming and knowing will grant mastery and lasting happiness. Yet true happiness, a profound ease arising from within, is not the fruit of accumulation, but of letting go, when commentary softens and we rest with what is, without labels, judgment, or control. Believing external knowledge to be the sole source of peace leads to endless seeking. More information, another book, another teaching promising relief. We become spiritual consumers, drifting from philosophy to philosophy, convinced the next insight will unlock liberation. This outward gaze diverts us from the real source, which is not adding to the mind's archive, but purifying the lens through which we see. The external world, with its transient pleasures, cannot satisfy a yearning born in deeper awareness. Like looking at water to quench thirst, the intellect, useful for navigating phenomena, becomes a barrier when it mistakes map for territory, the finger for the moon. When intelligence lacks self-awareness, it fashions elegant systems divorced from direct experience of suffering and freedom. The ego finds fertile ground in intellectual prowess, thriving on being right, recognition, and the subtle pride of having answers. This attachment strengthens the sense of a separate self that possesses wisdom. Genuine wisdom, however, dissolves ego boundaries and reveals interconnectedness. Clinging to ideas reinforces the self the path aims to transcend, creating resistance between what we understand and what we embody. Impermanence, non-self, and suffering can be grasped and eloquently stated. Yet if ego remains entrenched, these truths will not reach the heart. This delusion separates us from the living moment. We filter experience through concepts, analyzing a sunset as a visual phenomenon instead of absorbing its beauty. We intellectualize another's suffering as an object of compassion rather than responding with direct empathy and action. Such mediation dulls the senses and distances us from unadorned reality. Thought itself is indispensable, but when it becomes the default, unexamined, it traps us in an echo chamber of our own making. Happiness is not found by acquiring more, but by letting go. The world of external knowledge is infinite. Tying contentment to mastering it condemns us to perpetual striving. There will always be another book, another perspective. That restless seeking prevents the mind from settling into its natural clarity and ease. The trap shows up as a quiet ache even in the learned. Eloquent teachers who still feel something missing, yearning for direct experience, for wisdom that transforms rather than merely informs. Intellectual understanding may provide ingredients, but without direct practice there is no nourishment. The wisdom sought is not imported, but unveiled. Inherent clarity obscured by conceptual bustle and ego attachment. To escape this snare, we cultivate humility. Admit that answers may lie not out there, but within the quiet crucible of awareness. Shift from intellectual pride to introspection, from external seeking to gentle observation. Letting go is not abandoning wisdom, but deepening it, allowing truth to arise from experience rather than imposition. Pause, breathe. Let the mind settle like disturbed water calming to reveal its depths. The practice is not suppression, but discriminating attention that sees thoughts and emotions as impermanent, preventing them from hardening into identities. This soft inward turn alters our relation to intelligence. It becomes a servant of liberation, a tool for cutting through delusion when guided by self-awareness. Humility ensures intelligence illuminates the path for all, recognizing wisdom in every moment. Separation dissolves, replaced by direct engagement. We cease identifying only with ideas and rest in the spaciousness that holds them. Happiness reveals itself, not as acquisition, but as the natural state of a mind freed from attachment and delusion, the movement from mere knowing to embodied wisdom, the understanding that invites us to observe our daily mental habits. When we relentlessly seek external information, we pause to ask whether this pursuit brings clarity and inner peace, or merely fuels agitation and a deceptive sense of intelligence. It is a quiet inquiry, not a forceful denial, into our engagement with concepts and data. This gentle turning of attention reveals the pull to fill every moment with input, to seek validation or certainty outside ourselves. We notice how the mind, eager to comprehend, becomes a restless mechanism, acquiring, comparing, analyzing, yet rarely settling. This ceaseless activity, though seemingly productive, creates inner clamor that obscures the deeper peace always present. The deceptive sense of intelligence is satisfaction from knowing many things, from articulating complex ideas or offering a ready answer. Yet this knowing often remains surface level, a conceptual grasp that does not reach the core, leaving a persistent emptiness. It is like a scholar who has read countless descriptions of a mountain, but never felt the earth underfoot, the wind on the face, or the vastness of the sky above its peak. The knowledge impresses, but direct, transformative experience is absent. We are invited to examine this pattern with the gentle curiosity of a monk watching a river. When do we reach for a device, open a book, or start a conversation not from necessity or genuine interest, but from unease with silence, discomfort with the spaciousness of the present? This observation is not about condemning seeking, learning is natural and often beneficial, but about discerning the motive. Is it driven by thirst for understanding that leads toward liberation, or by fear of not knowing, of feeling incomplete, of losing an intellectual edge? One leads to clarity and peace, the other perpetuates striving and agitation. Left unguided by awareness, the mind becomes a tireless machine, producing streams of thoughts, each promising a resolution that remains elusive. This inquiry exposes how external information shapes inner experience. Opinions formed from reading, perspectives taken from listening, conclusions from analysis can harden into frameworks that limit direct perception. Faced with something new, we may filter it through these models, arriving at a sense of knowing without truly experiencing, of understanding without embodying. One may read extensively about compassion, its benefits and philosophies. That intellectual grasp is valuable, but it is not feeling another's pang in one's own heart or offering kindness without expectation. The former is conceptual, the latter is the lived immediacy of the moment. The deceptive sense of intelligence keeps us in contemplation rather than engaged presence. The relentless pursuit of information reinforces separation, the division between me, the knower, and the world, the known. This stance grants a sense of control but isolates us from interconnectedness. We become observers rather than participants, analyzing life from a distance instead of immersing ourselves in its changing tapestry. The agitation accompanying this pursuit springs from the mind's effort to categorize, master, and possess knowledge as if it were tangible. This grasping, fueled by the belief that more information will satisfy, becomes a craving for intellectual completeness that can never be fully met. Thus, we are invited to cultivate a different intelligence, rooted in awareness, the capacity to observe without judgment, to be present without controlling or categorizing. It recognizes the limits of concepts, and that true wisdom often arises from stillness, from allowing rather than forcing. It means pausing before reacting, breathing before speaking, observing before forming opinions, a space between stimulus and response, where gentle discernment guides engagement from clarity rather than habit. This pause does not stop thought, but softens its grip, opening to a broader awareness that holds mental activity with compassion. As practice refines, we discern when seeking genuinely serves liberation and when it merely adds clutter. We learn the difference between knowledge that deepens connection and information that feeds the ego's need for validation. This discernment emerges from direct experience rather than rules, and we begin to feel the contrast between the agitation of relentless seeking and the quiet clarity of settled awareness. That experiential understanding transforms our being. This discerning awareness lets us use intelligence wisely, as a tool for understanding, not entanglement. We engage with books, teachings, and conversations with attention that is open, receptive, and continually returning to direct experience. We stop mistaking the map for the territory, seeing external knowledge as a guide toward an inward truth revealed through observation and contemplation. The aim is not intellectual barrenness, but integration of intellect with inner wisdom, allowing both to serve liberation. In that integration arises peace, a quiet confidence grounded not in what we know, but in how we know, with clarity, compassion, and presence. The mind, freed from ceaseless striving, rests in ease and reflects the world with the undistorted clarity of a still pond. This stillness is not the absence of thought, but freedom from its binding power, enabling engagement with life from profound inner peace. This redirection is a deliberate, gentle turning, not wrenching us from the outer world, but softening our gaze to reveal the overlooked landscape within. Like a gardener who, after tending a plant's leaves, examines its roots and soil, we attend to the arising and passing of our mental formations. We observe, with fresh, open attention, how a thought emerges from silence, takes shape, lingers, and dissolves back into that silence. This witnessing is neither judgment nor suppression. We neither stop thoughts nor cling to pleasant ones or push away discomfort. We simply watch, a patient observer by a stream, noting each leaf and twig carried along without attaching meaning or judgment to their passage. Cultivating humility here is a practice of letting go, recognizing that cherished ideas, fixed opinions, and ingrained beliefs are impermanent. They arise, persist, and pass. Not absolute truths etched in stone, but shifting interpretations that change with conditions. Acknowledging this loosens the grip of needing to be right or to hold a fixed worldview. Humility is not weakness, but a gateway to deeper understanding. When we empty the cup of stale content, we create space for fresh water. When we release attachment to conceptual frameworks, we become receptive to direct, unmediated experience. Seeking truth through direct experience means moving beyond intellectual grasp to engage with reality moment by moment, tasting water rather than citing its chemistry, feeling the sun rather than explaining light. Intellectual understanding of impermanence differs from the lived reality felt in breath, shifting sensations, brief emotions, or a decaying flower. Direct seeing penetrates the core of being in ways concepts cannot. The deluded lenses we shift beyond are fashioned by conditioning, bias, and habit. They distort perception, causing us to project our interpretations onto reality, labeling people untrustworthy, for example, despite benign intentions. Through inner investigation and humility, we remove these lenses, cleaning the window pane so the world appears clearer and more vibrant. This internal shift reorients our being. External teachings can guide, but liberation is an inner journey. We become our own laboratory, observing mind and heart with gentle awareness. Paradoxically, knowing ourselves more deeply cultivates empathy and compassion for others. Practically, when a strong emotion arises, we pause. We turn inward and ask about its nature, origin, components, the bodily sensations, the thoughts, the impulse to act. Gentle inquiry reveals emotions as impermanent processes, not fixed selves, lessening their power and allowing wiser responses. In challenges, instead of blaming or seeking only external fixes, we investigate our reactions and attachments, taking responsibility for our inner landscape and cultivating peace, regardless of circumstance. Humility also applies to teachings. Mastery of doctrine without embodied realization remains sterile. True understanding blooms when teachings transform heart and mind. Learning, unlearning, and returning to direct experience remain the ultimate arbiter of truth. The journey inward gradually dismantles delusion, revealing innate wisdom and compassion. Each quiet observation, each humble inquiry chips away illusion, exposing what already exists beneath unexamined thoughts. The truth sought is not in elaborate doctrines, but in the spaciousness of awareness, the direct experience of this moment. In this sustained, non-grasping gaze, the mind's natural radiance surfaces, reflecting the world without distortion and responding with unconditioned compassion. In that profound stillness, born of direct experience and deep humility, we begin to taste liberation. Truth lived in the breathing reality of each unfolding moment, unburdened by what we thought we knew, and open to the ever-present wisdom that permeates existence. It is from this gentle stillness that we turn inward, to the spaciousness of our inner landscape. Picture not an empty void, but a wide open sky within you, able to hold all phenomena without being moved. In this inner sky, thoughts and feelings are clouds. They form, drift, change shape, and dissolve. We need not chase or grasp them. We simply observe. This observation is not judgment or analysis, but quiet, patient witnessing. The practice of letting the mind be without interference or the habitual urge to categorize, label, or control. Consider the nature of these clouds. Some are dark and heavy with worry or sorrow, others bright and fleeting with joy or curiosity. Many are neutral, merely passing. Each arises from a confluence of causes: past experience, present circumstance, subtle inclinations. They are temporary visitors, not permanent residents. Observed without attachment, we stop identifying with their content and see them as transient formations rather than aspects of our being. This subtle shift recognizes that we are not the clouds, but the vast, unwavering sky in which they appear. This direct seeing is the essence of non-attachment, to allow all to arise and pass without holding on, resisting, or becoming entangled. In mindful observation, we notice the quiet beneath agitation. Just as the sky remains vast when storms gather and pass, a fundamental stillness resides beneath the busy mind. Restless thoughts and emotional eddies are like ripples on a pond. Focused on the ripples, the pond seems chaotic. When our gaze settles beyond surface movement, we perceive the deep, still body of water beneath. This stillness is not absence, but a quality of presence, an underlying calm always available, waiting to be recognized. It is the natural state of mind when not grasping, striving, or seeking certainty and external validation. Embracing this quiet means learning to rest in that stillness, even as thoughts arise. We do not demand their cessation, for that would be another form of striving. Instead, we allow mental activity to be like distant sounds heard from a quiet room, present, but not defining or disturbing our core peace. This practice cultivates trust in the wisdom of the present moment, in the mind's capacity to settle, and in the spaciousness that holds experience. It releases the exhausting effort to fix, control, or fully understand every mental event. We simply rest in the knowing that behind the noise there is silence, behind movement, stillness. From this embraced quiet, a profound freedom begins to blossom. It is not found in acquiring all answers or achieving certainty about life's complexities, but in releasing the need for those things. For generations, we've sought security in external sources, doctrines, experts, systems of thought, believing enough information would yield unshakable clarity. Yet relentless external seeking often deepens entanglement. The more we chase answers, the more elusive peace becomes, like a mirage. Releasing the need for certainty is an act of courage and trust. It acknowledges that many profound questions lack definitive conceptual answers. Life is a flow, an ever-changing process, not a fixed set of facts to be mastered. When we let go of intellectual grip and stop demanding the world conform to our models, we open to a different wisdom, one found through direct, lived experience. This wisdom is adaptive, fluid, and responsive. It does not offer absolute certainties, but provides clarity, equanimity, and compassionate engagement with what arises. Finding wisdom within is the natural result of this inward turning. It is not discovering something new, but uncovering what was always present, obscured by conceptual thinking and external striving. Inner wisdom is the capacity to discern, respond with kindness, rest in spacious awareness, and act skillfully without fear or attachment. It appears as intuitive, quiet knowing that guides with gentleness and clarity, the realization that the wellspring of peace and understanding lies within, an inexhaustible source for heart and mind. This inner wisdom belongs to no single teaching. It is the universal heritage of beings, waiting to be recognized. To connect with it, cultivate conditions that allow it to surface. Quiet reflection, gentle observation, and the practice of letting go, of control, of the need to know, of needing certainty. Each time we observe a thought without attachment, embrace the quiet behind agitation, or release our grip on external answers, we tend the garden of inner wisdom. Its fruits, a deep peace, steady compassion, and a freedom that permeates life. The journey continues, not as a quest for something outside, but as a patient unfolding of the truth already within. We keep turning our gaze inward, resting in the spaciousness of this moment, allowing wisdom to illuminate our path from within.